18th. And I will call this Moab Area Travel Council meeting to order via Zoom today. Elaine will tell us why that is.
Yes, and we are Zooming along because the in-person meeting, I was out of town to attend a couple conferences, and I really did not want to, I'm trying to sort of quarantine myself for about a week until I can make sure I didn't want to go into the office or, you know, be near a lot of individuals just in case. And that's why we are having a Zoom meeting instead.
Thanks for your consideration for the rest of us old folks. Yeah. I don't think we have a quorum yet, so I'm going to pass through the approval of minutes, but I will invite anybody from the public if they have any questions for the board at this time.
Hey, this is Gabriel. I just wanted to declare my attendance here. I'm filling in for Mary. She was unable to make it, and I wasn't sure y'all were aware of that. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for being with us in that
Great.
place. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Can you see anybody else that's here? We don't have a quorum yet, do we? As far as I can see.
We are, let's see.
Let me see. I've got Jason. Sharon's there. There we are. We're good. I just saw Sharon. Hi, Sharon.
All right, so we've got Sherry and we've got Howard and Jason and Sharon. Okay.
Okay, let's go back to number 2 then on the agenda, which would be the approval of minutes.
I have a correction.
Okay.
Katie's name was spelled at the beginning of the minutes wrong. That was the only thing I saw.
Okay.
It's minor.
Hi guys, I'm sorry I'm a little late.
Who's this, Lacey?
That would be Katie McKay.
Hi, Katie. Just in voice only, huh?
Oh yeah.
Okay, we're looking at our approval of the minutes. There was a correction made.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes with the correction of the spelling of Katie's name.
Okay, Sharon made a motion. Any second?
I'll second.
Who was the second? Who?
Katie.
Is that
Katie,
it's
okay.
either
Katie.
Mary or Katie? Yeah, both.
Okay, is there any discussion on the minutes? Okay, all those in favor of approving with correction? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. We are scheduled for some presentations today.
Yes.
This was suggested by Elaine. So Elaine, could you lead into those? And we will start with, I guess, Stephen Stocks and Kevin Walker are going to do presentations to us. With
Yes, and Kevin may be a few minutes late only because he had a bit of a conflict that arose. So I thanks to Stephen and Kevin for being gutsy enough to come to the Travel Council. And what I thought would be interesting because this is a very important decision, is that we hear from both of the candidates and just for them to, you know, review their platform. And naturally, since we are the tourism Travel Council and we market and brand and do everything else, and people only think that we run ads, and we do a lot more than that. We wanted to have, you know, find out what your platform is, and then maybe if you can give us a little bit of background on your thoughts on our tourism and maybe diversification of tourism within Grand County.
Hey, this is Jason. Can I say something really fast?
Sure.
I don't know if Stephen has time, but would it be possible to wait until Kevin gets on and then do them both at the same time? And maybe we do Moab Dark Skies right now and then.
Yeah, that's fine with
on.
me. Is that okay with you, Stephen? Okay,
Yep.
sounds good.
And our dark skies folks with us.
Yep. Crystal's with us. Crystal, are you there?
I am.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have Crystal White with us. And they are, she's heads up, she and Joette Langanese head up the Dark Sky Committee. They do an amazing job. And I just thought we ought to have an update of everything they have done and are doing for our community. So take it away, Crystal.
She's very dark.
Great. I just made a little.
Awesome.
This year, we started a couple community recognition and assistance programs. Moab Dark Skies consists of community members, city members, travel council members, Friends of Arches and Canyonlands Parks, and the county. The first program we've started is called Friends of the Milky Way. And it's really convince businesses to retrofit their lighting to match the outdoor lighting and sign illumination code before the 5-year amortization deadline. And so basically, why we're doing this, well, I just told you part of it, but it's also to reduce how much money we're spending in Moab and Grand County on light that is simply wasted. It's shining up into the sky. Nobody uses it there. And so we're wasting a lot of money on that light. And also we just happen to be in a place where we have some of the darkest skies in the US. And this is becoming a really rare resource. And so something that we could definitely, by protecting, share with residents that live here. We all enjoy looking at the night sky, as well as all the people who come from all over the world. Reputation as a place with stellar night skies where you can see the universe for just enjoyment of stargazing, astrophotography. And so there's a lot of tours coming that have the potential to bring in a lot of money to the city and county. So basically who this program's targeted toward is obviously any Moab business. Also, it will benefit nonprofits or any other organization within the Moab City or Grand County limits. So this is basically the program. We're going to have these flyers up throughout town. And the first step is for anyone, any business owner or nonprofit or a community organization, to contact the city and the county and let them know they're interested. And you can see on the bottom right of the flyer are the numbers to contact. And I believe these are already on the city and county websites. So people can already get started if they really wanted to. So what does this do for businesses? How does it benefit them? First, they get a city or county staff member who's trained on the code to come out and do a free property lighting assessment so that they know exactly what needs to be changed, what's in compliance already, and how to proceed. Anytime Moab Dark Skies talks about it in any media, we recognize the different companies, organizations that are a part of the Friends of the Milky Way. We will also highlight them on our Facebook page. And they'll get a little vinyl cling, which is the logo that I showed you at first, that lets people know that visit their business that they are a dark sky friendly business. So that is the first program that we have. And then the second program that we have is to assist homeowners that are here year round. So anybody that lives in Moab year round can apply for assistance from Moab Dark Skies to help replace their exterior lights to be in compliance with the new code. All you have to do is fill out a form that's on a city and county websites, and it comes back to Moab Dark Skies, and we have a little reserve of money to help with this project that was donated. And so they just apply, then we decide, based off of their income level, if we feel like that the assistance is appropriate, then we will go ahead. And so far we do have one family that's working with us right now to replace their lights. So they'll be the first ones, and I'm super excited about that. And hopefully before long, more homes look like this with shielded lights, less light impact throughout the neighborhood. Having light that's directed downward and really only where it's needed. So that's the basic shorts of the updates that we have. I'll turn my video on for a second. But I wanted to give you guys the chance to ask any questions about the program, or yeah, if you have any thoughts about the program.
Any of you on the board have questions for Crystal about Dark Skies? I have one.
I guess
Go ahead.
this is Katie, Crystal. I actually have you coming in tomorrow to do a presentation at my property. But in regards to that, I guess my question for you, is there anything that local businesses can do to support your guys' efforts?
Retrofit your lights.
That, trust me, is already on our list.
Yeah. I honestly think that, just being the people in the forefront, and saying, yeah, we embrace this, we've done it ourselves. It's really not anything that's going to harm us or make Moab darker, or all the things that we hear. We hear how, the reduction in light is going to, cause safety issues, which is not really true, but because we're not actually reducing light, we're just putting it where we want it, which is on the ground. So really it's, just sign up for the program. Let's get you going. Let's get your lighting assessed, and see where you're at. Most of the properties I've checked so far, they're not that far from being in compliance, which is great. So it's a lot of fun to see the difference. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask an obvious question, but
Okay.
Can you tell me the best time of year to enjoy Dark Skies in the Moab area?
Winter. It's not the best time for a pleasant experience, in that it's really cold, but the skies are the best in the winter.
Well, I think that helps to promote the shoulder season, I would say.
Absolutely.
Hence my leading question.
Yes. Thank you, Howard.
Can I ask one? I know we're talking about a dark sky preserve in the desert. I know my understanding is Idaho has one. I'm just wondering how that process is going. I know the last time you presented to the board, we did talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's going very slowly. We knew it would. We're dealing with a lot of different communities across southeastern Utah into central Utah. But we're getting a lot of support through those communities. So I think for the majority of them, we'll get them on board. But it takes time, because it's not just their commitment, it's their commitment and then making changes in their communities, and then we can go forward from there. So it's just helping organize community members, giving them the tools they need to be successful in protecting their night sky, and kind of deciding what limit they want on it too, because you have to have the infrastructure in place if you're inviting a bunch of people to come from all over the world to your community. If you don't have anywhere for them to stay, that's an issue. So it's also like taking a look at their broader communities and being ready for what they're hoping for.
And I think that with the Travel Council focusing on sustainability, this fits right into what we're trying to convey to the visitors. We already have a focus for dark skies on our Discover Moab website, but I think when it comes to getting the businesses and the Do It Like a Local might be the website where we can highlight the businesses that have become a friend to the Milky Way. So I guess, Crystal, maybe you and I could set up a meeting with the staff at the Travel Council and with Melissa, and we could talk about how we can help to say and focus on the businesses that we that have become friends of the Milky Way, to let people know about the support that is happening in our community, and maybe that will help other businesses to jump on board.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I know we have a few businesses that are interested in the program, and I believe Corey started working with a few of them. I don't know if the county's had any requests yet, but it's exciting. There's quite a few businesses that are pretty excited about the program.
That's great. And I'll talk to Melissa. Maybe we can set up a page that talks about it, since that's the page where we're focusing more on. It's a little bit obviously different than Discover Moab, but I think helps to educate the visitor about what we're trying to do in our community for sustainability. And I think this plays right into that. So thank you.
I think Sharon has a question.
Yeah, Crystal, this isn't about the program you're doing. It's more with your personal business. Because Arches and Canyonlands and Dead Horse aren't really doing any night sky programs, are you still doing them? Can we still be sending people to you?
Yes.
Because just this week, I mean, it just started exploding again with the questions on night sky programs. So
yeah, I'm completely booked up until the 22nd, actually.
Okay, I'll write that down so we know.
And I just heard on the radio this morning that there's a new health code that's coming down. I think it starts next week, where we can't have more than 10 people.
Okay.
So I'll be limiting my tours to 10 at that point. But yeah, they're getting pretty strict. And I don't know if Moab's affected by that or not.
It's up to the county at this point, I think.
Okay.
It's all up to individual counties, so.
Okay. Typically, I have around 10 to 8. I did push it up to 13 the other night.
Okay.
And
I just know it's just been like exploded with people asking for night sky stuff. So
yeah,
what was funny is right when full moon was, and we're all going, it's not the best night for star viewing, but go out. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I get a lot of requests around the full moon.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Crystal?
This is Gabriel of the County Commission. Was the previous comment in reference to I think someone had said a night sky haven? Was that in reference to the potential of an observatory or just a certain area where people would gather? Is there more background on that? Kind of a new.
Yeah, sure. There's an effort right now going on statewide to preserve a big portion of southeastern Utah into south central Utah to create a night sky reserve. Place where all the natural darkness in that area is protected, just simply by changing the lighting that's happening within the cities and communities.
Great. Have you ever heard of any interest from any research-based institutions on even building an observatory in this area?
What am I selling?
Yes.
I asked. I was traveling once a while back in the northern part of Chile in the Atacama Desert, which is also a really famous dark sky area. And I recall seeing telescopes, dotted amongst the rim in the distance in that desert. And I'm not obviously not necessarily what I'm seeing here, what I would imagine here, but it'd be interesting to see that come into play.
We actually have the perfect conditions, the same kind of thing where it's just really dry, not a lot of humidity. So it is perfect for that type of facility. I know the University of Utah was thinking about it for a while, but it was kind of hinged on me being up at Dead Horse Point and I left. So it fell through, but they were thinking about moving their observatory to Dead Horse Point at the time.
San Juan County.
Crystal, would you be working with the Discovery Center down in San Juan County?
I have done a lot of work with them, yeah. In fact, I finally got them in connection with their new city administrator or county administrator, and who you met.
Mac.
Yeah, and got into conversations together after our meeting with him. And they had, I guess, a good conversation about how they could help each other out.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Crystal.
You're welcome.
All right. We'll move on to a couple more presentations. I believe Mr. Walker and Mr. Stocks are both present. Say aye.
Yeah, I'm on my phone in a moving car, so hopefully it works out.
Be careful.
I'm not driving.
Elaine suggested that, as you mentioned, that we have some of the candidates come before us and talk about their platforms. And so we're inviting you to do that for us this afternoon. So I don't know who wants to start. Should we do it alphabetically? How about you, Mr. Stocks? Hello?
If you'd like me to go first, that's perfectly fine.
We'll do it alphabetically. That seems reasonable.
All right. And did you want to give Mr. Walker kind of the things that we had talked about before you guys explained that to me? To be honest.
Just, yeah, Elaine, would you kind of maybe tell the candidates what you were looking for really from them?
Well, I think we want to hear your overall platform, what that consists of, and we'd like because we are the tourism council for Grand County. We'd like to hear obviously about your thoughts on tourism, tourism growth, and diversifying our economy. So if you could shed a little bit of light on that, that would really be great. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Stocks, would you like to go ahead?
Sure. So first and foremost, my name's Stephen Stocks. I'm running for the Grand County. Well, I signed up for the Grand County Council seat, but they've since changed to a commission. I'm an unaffiliated individual. I don't have any backing from any political party. I'm not green, blue, red, white party. I'm just my own party. My platform that I'm running on is government transparency and more fiscal responsibility. For me, the county council, when they were the county council, they tripled their salary, nearly tripled their salary. I think that is completely unethical and improper. They did it in term and did it for themselves. There's a lot of members in the community that don't even make $33,000. And while many people may say, well, we did it to encourage other people to run, look at the number of people that are running unopposed. It's a considerably large amount of money, and those individuals chose not to decrease their salary, even while COVID happened, even while laying off individuals that were working for the Grand County. So I don't appreciate that as a taxpayer, and I don't appreciate that as a member of the community. Regarding tourism, this economy is supported by the tourist dollar, and the amount of workforce that we have that is dedicated to the tourism industry is substantial. We can't just switch that over to something else overnight. As much as we would like that, the tourist dollar is a very important dollar to the community. The other alternatives regarding diversification are really hard to come by. Oil and gas is not very exciting for a lot of people in this area. We don't want the mineral leases, we don't want the oil reserves. That would be a way to reduce the amount of dependency that we have on the tourist market, but it's not a local favorite and it's not very popular. I think that's one place that could be helpful, but not necessary. I think that the idea of creating maybe a telecommuting area here in town would be a possibility, but we would need to develop an infrastructure that would support that. We would need Google Fiber. If any of you guys have been on Zoom meetings, I'm frequently in court on Zoom meetings, the internet will disconnect for periods of time, and then you're just stuck in limbo. And that's happened a lot. We don't have fiber. We don't have the infrastructure that can support a lot of the need that the bigger businesses would want to do telecommuting. And the other concern about telecommuting is if we bring in Google, Amazon, or other larger companies to really focus and say, hey, Moab's the place to go, you're going to look at property prices skyrocketing even more so than they are now. We're going to price out locals. So my approach is I respect the fact that we are a tourist economy. I think there are ways that we can focus our efforts in advertising and focus our efforts in creating better stewards of the community and focusing on things that are less impactful to the environment. I think Jeep Safari sells itself now. I think we could focus on other things such as photography or other types of environmentally friendly, geo travel or ecotourism, as opposed to pushing UTVs or jeeping. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Those are my beefs that I have. I'm not the perfect candidate for any particular person. I'm honest, I'm straightforward. No one contributes to my campaign because I don't accept contributions, I don't accept donations. I run and fund my own campaign. And so that's really important to me, to be an independent, to be somebody that will listen to the issues and ultimately decide on them using my own assessment of things. So that's going to be in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I'll give Kevin, Mr. Walker, a chance to present, and then I'll ask the board if they have any questions for either of you.
Okay, let me, I don't know if video is going to work, and I don't know if it's how much to look at, so maybe I should turn the video off, but I'll just maybe wave hello and say, yes, I am here in a car in a Moab's construction zone. So to save bandwidth, I'm turning the video off. Oh no, I guess I just turned it on. I got confused. Let's see, I've lived in Moab since, I guess I first lived here in 1989. There's been a lot of changes since then. I think the first 2 years I lived here, people were not complaining about too many tourists, but starting about 92, they were, and that continued, but they weren't serious complaints. But I think starting the last 5 or 7 years, I think things have really changed. And I think there's been a consensus in the community that it's not becoming a nicer place to live. And so I think we need to deal with that. I think, and that doesn't mean getting rid of tourism, but it does mean trying to be a little more focused in the sort of tourism and sorts of activities we try to predict. And I'd be happy to talk more about that later. I think in addition to, I think sort of transforming or migrating our tourism industry to something that's compatible with quality of life for full-time residents, I think we should work toward diversifying the economy. And I guess I'm a little more optimistic than Stephen is about that. Our economy is already more diverse than a lot of people give it credit for. I think we've got 1,000 jobs just and people working for government. There's healthcare. There's a lot of tourism is a very big part of our economy, but it's nowhere near 100%. I think that some of those existing things we could try to expand. It helps us all if we've got more going on in the healthcare sector, for example. And I think those jobs are a good complement in terms of salary and the types of skills needed to some of the other things in the community. But I think a recent opportunity with COVID is people with portable jobs, sometimes called telecommuters. And I think I disagree with Stephen a bit about the prospects for those. I prefer to say portable job because I think it includes people who are not really computer focused. They just, are able to work out of their home, and their home can be where they choose to live. So a few of those people might need really fast internet, but a lot don't. I've been working out of my home for the past, 20, 25 years here, and it's been going just fine. I think it also it doesn't necessarily mean large companies. I think there's a lot of sort of independent entrepreneurs, but I think the important thing and the exciting thing about diversifying our economy that way is the things we need to do are things we want to do anyway. We want to keep Moab a pleasant place to live, a desirable place to live, a place that people will be willing to, move to because of our outdoor amenities or a great small town feel or just the vibe, and the variety in our community. And that benefits people who already live here. And so it's kind of a win-win situation. We make things better for ourselves, and then we're also, so it's the opposite of sacrificing. So yeah, I think, I think people are getting very upset about the noise in town. And I think a lot of that has to do with, UTVs and other motorized things on the street. I think, another aspect is just the general crowding. But I think we definitely need to do something about that. And I think big changes are coming, regardless of who wins the race between Stephen and I. To me, this feels, the impetus behind this feels a lot bigger than the overnight accommodation discussion we had a year ago. So I think the Travel Council can be an important part of that. I think you guys, you are how we communicate to the rest of the world. And I'm encouraged that you've been putting more effort into the Do It Like a Local campaign, the sustainability. I think there's lots more ideas that could be explored in that direction. And I think by using effective communication, we can sort of have tourism that doesn't impact us the way that the current mix does. So I'll stop there. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. I'd like to open up to the board members if they have any questions for the candidates.
I do. Howard, Miss Katie.
Hey, Katie. Hi, Katie.
Just a quick question. It sounds like both of you basically see preserving the experience of Moab, your passion for it. How important is sustainability to you moving forward if you do continue to go toward this role?
Go ahead. Whoever wants to jump on that first, go ahead.
And it's to both of you, Stephen and Kevin.
Okay, I'll go first. So sustainability means a lot of different things, but one thing it means two of the things it means locally is one, our water supply, and there's been a lot of uncertainty about just how much water we have in the aquifer. But I think the most recent study I saw shows that it's actually a lot less than we thought a year ago. So I think that's something we have to think seriously about. And we are never going to be a county of 100,000 people. We're probably never going to be 50,000 people. So it means at some point our population has to stop growing, and we may be approaching that point already. So that deserves some serious consideration. Secondly, I think our backcountry has a carrying capacity, and we need to, we don't want Moab to become a popular place because of all the great things we can do outdoors. But if too many people come and try to enjoy them at once or all in the same weekend, that causes problems. And this is something, this isn't rocket science. That type of problem has occurred in many destination communities, throughout the world. And, the solution is metering one way or another. We've already got it, we've had it for many years on the river. It used to be you could just float down the river anytime you wanted to. Now you need a permit. Backpacking in Canyons National Park used to be unregulated. Now it needs a permit. I think we need more of that to preserve things, and that's an approach that's worked elsewhere. We could all sort of wish that people would just the visitation numbers would just drop, but we know that's not going to happen. And since that's not going to happen, we have to try to prevent it from getting out of hand, and so that we have a kind of more sustainable and long-term tourism industry. Thanks.
Stephen, do you want to restate that question to him again, Katie?
Yeah, oh, cool. Go for it, Stephen.
So and I'll take a different approach. I think Mr. Walker's correct. I do think that water usage is a really important facet. I don't think the level of growth that we have, we can continue exponentially forever. That's not reasonable. So I would agree there. I think Grand County has an opportunity to be sustainable in energy. And this isn't one of my ideas, but I do think that Grand County could invest reasonable amounts of resources into solar panels and to be able to structure and finance, solar farm. And there's a couple different places where the county could put that. I think Grand County, and following the foot tracks of Moab, of having clean, renewable energy and going green on the energy front, would be very helpful and encouraging, since we have so many different types of vehicles that come here, be it UTVs, Jeeps, cars, whatever you want. If we could really push and promote and be a capital where we say, hey, look, we really support electronic vehicles and we support clean, clean alternatives to fuel, I think that would be a great thing. I think that would really be sustainable energy source that we could really market and capitalize. And we're in the middle of the desert with lots of sunlight, and be able to utilize that. So that would be my approach. And like I said, I do agree that there is a limit to how many people that you could stuff into the valley. And there, at a certain point, you run out of land and you could just build up. And I don't think that that's what we really envision Moab to be a bunch of condos. But there's limitations that we would have to put on that. So those are my two thoughts on that. Thank you.
Any other
Thank
board
you.
questions? Sharon.
So this might not be a very popular question, but right now, with both the county and the city, UTVs, side-by-sides are being singled out as the cause of all the noise around here.
Right.
Where do you guys stand on regulating user groups? Can you legally say side-by-side UTVs can only do it this time of day, these days of the week, when motorcycles make just as much noise? Jeeps, there's a lot of Jeeps that are running around that make just as much noise and go faster. Come by my house sometime. The Hummers, the big vehicles that are out now on the tour companies have. I mean, these are all making noise. Where do you guys stand on, should we be singling out one user group?
Agreed.
I'll let Stephen go first on this one.
Perfect. So personal experience, my dad has a Harley. It is loud, like terrifying loud.
I'm from Sturgis.
Yeah, there you go. So perfect, Here's the thing. With any type of law, if anybody wants to make a law, it's really great if they make a law, but it's worthless if there's no enforcement. I don't know how you police this. The only way that I could conceptualize policing UTVs, there are certain vehicles in town, when they come into town, they have to have a permit, right? They have to go get a permit. Now, the reason why I think you could pick on them easier, and I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, but through that permitting process, you could, try to monitor noise. Is that something that I personally have a beef against? I haven't had complaints. For me, where I live, and I live on Rose Tree, I don't hear the UTVs frequently. And so it's not something that I personally feel the bleed of. I just am being realistic. When my dad starts up his Harley and he's near here, it's loud, but the neighbors can't run out and call the police on us. And so I understand that people are really upset. I think one of the things, and I've gone door to door with a mask, walking around and knocking on them, down near Dave's Corner Market, I'm pointing west or east. Anyways, down near Dave's Corner Market, there's a small cul-de-sac if you're going southbound and you just miss the turn for Slick Rock. There's a little cul-de-sac there, the Seacrest, where they used to have ostriches back in the day. And people miss the sign, they don't see Slick Rock, and they turn down, they flip around, and they go out. And they make a bunch of unnecessary noise. I'm all for putting better signage in the area and telling people, hey, look, Slick Rock is this way. Moab's small, but we can help people, help people get to where they're going, because I don't think the UTVs in town, their goal is not to rev around town and do donuts in town. It's to go out and get on the trails. So I think signage could help for that. Personally, I don't have a huge problem with UTVs, and I'm realistic on the fact that it's really difficult to police this, and we don't have enough law enforcement or staff to be able to enforce it. So is it something that I am personally going to run into office and change overnight? No, that's not one of the things that I'm really passionate about.
Kevin, do you want to respond before
You mentioned the permitting. The OHV permits are only for non-street legal vehicles now. So, you know, because we see them here at the MEC all the time when they come in. It used to be, you know, almost every, I mean, just certain states needed them. Now, every state, if you're non-street legal license plated, and that's the one thing that, like my staff, we have, you know, we have to make sure people are license plated, not just street legal or stuff on their vehicle, but they have to be license plated in their home state. And that's where I'm having a problem with hearing some of the stuff that the city and county want to do, is these are street legal vehicles. How do you tell a street legal vehicle you can't ride on our streets? And that's one of the issues.
Okay, I'm gonna give Kevin a chance to respond to what you asked initially. Kevin, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so I think the initial question was about distinguishing between different types of vehicles. And I agree that, you know, if there's going to be, for example, a local noise ordinance, you know, it's going to apply to Harleys just as much as it does to UTVs. And there are things, but it just so happens that, you know, one of my hobbies is electronic gadgetry. And then over the past few weeks, I've had a noise monitoring device out on the field in Mill Creek. And what it does is every time the decibels exceed a certain threshold, it takes a short video of what's causing the noise on the street. And we're still analyzing the data, but I can tell you that, you know, a pretty high percentage of the loud stuff on the streets is UTVs. They're not louder than Harleys, but there's more of them. And that's why people are upset. So I think we definitely need to do something to get the noise under control. I've lived in Moab for 30 years and I've never heard people complain, you know, as much as anything as they are about this vehicle noise. And it doesn't affect the whole valley, but it affects quite a bit of it. People on Cane Creek complain, Mill Creek Drive and that area complain. People on Spanish Valley Drive, you know, pretty far out in the valley, you get a lot of complaints from them too. It's saying they can't sit out on their porches anymore. And these complaints span the political spectrum. So inevitably, you know, something's got to happen. You know, a lot of towns, including towns in Utah, have noise ordinances with a specific decibel levels that you can't exceed. And I think that's one thing we should try, in addition to asking the state legislature to, you know, give us back the right to determine, you know, what kind of vehicles are street legal on our streets. I guess I also wanted to respond. Someone made the comment about, you know, how can you regulate a street legal vehicle? And they're regulated all the time. Like if someone makes an improper left turn and they get pulled over, they don't get to say, hey, I'm street legal. You know, it's the way the vehicle's operated, and the amount of sound it produces is the way you operate a vehicle. And so that can certainly be regulated.
Thanks, Kevin. Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I got a question for you guys. This is Jason Taylor. My question is how do you guys feel about the TRT tax? There's a lot of, not a lot, but there's whisperings, you know, that counties would like to try to get the TRT tax the way it is spent turned, and so that less is being spent on tourism and more being put into the general fund. And in a town like Moab, that has big consequences because the TRT tax is what, you know, to some extent allows us to promote the town, which brings in the TRT dollars, which brings in, you know, sales tax money and that sort of stuff to fund the different things of the general operations of the county. And so I was kind of curious what your guys' feeling is on diverting the TRT tax to the general fund.
Good question.
Well, I guess it's my turn to go first. So Jason, my audio cut out and I missed the first few seconds of your question, but I think I got the gist of it. In general, I think with local government, if we get unrestricted money, that gives us the most flexibility. And so, you know, this isn't anything specific about TRT. You know, I just think all our tax revenue should be unrestricted, and we just decide, you know, let local representatives decide how it's going to be spent. Specifically about TRT, I do think we should get more flexibility. And, you know, the way it's set up now, you know, the more people come here, the more we advertise, and, you know, there's a sort of tight linkage. And I don't think that's a good sustainable model. Now, we do have flexibility about how we spend the promotion budget, even within the framework of existing law. You know, it doesn't have to be devoted toward bringing as many people here as possible. It could be more like, you know, stay on the trail, or don't make too much noise at night, or other sort of more sustainable messages. But in general, you know, I'm not picking on the TRT tax, but I think any kind of earmarked money we get, I would prefer it just go into the general fund.
Thanks, Kevin. Stephen?
I think the TRT has been, they've gone back and, they've tried to adjust it a couple times. Just this year, or this last legislative session, they talked about it again, about adjusting or changing it. From my perspective, this community has always utilized that money to advertise. And your local individual businesses are not hemorrhaging out money advertising. And that's fine. That's how the framework is set up. This is a tax that's put on those particular nightly rentals. And I think that's important to keep the structure as it is there. The unfeathered access to funds for the local government, I wish we could say that our budget is fantastic. The things that the county council has done previously, I'm really annoyed about the fact that they decided to triple their budget. I'm really annoyed that they decided to not reduce their own salary in a time of COVID, and they laid off people in the county. I don't want them to have other unfeathered access to funds in the general fund to just be able to spend as they wish. Because overnight, we could say, well, we got enough people in that we really want to cut down tourism. And I think the county had an example of that this last year when they failed to put up matching funds. I think there was an amount of money that was allocated that it would be matched, and they declined to do that. And retroactively looking back, I don't think it was a good decision. I think we need to keep the consistent advertising, and we can change who the target audience is. But putting this money into the general fund, it's almost as if we're saying, okay, well, I know you guys we ran short this year, so we'll just use the TRT tax to cover the ends, and it'll be okay, and we don't have to advertise as much. I think that's putting too much power in there when this is a function that was created by the state legislature, and time again, we have not chosen to change exactly the makeup, and we've earmarked it for a specific reason because we want those specific tax dollars to go in an area. I disagree with Mr. Walker that earmarking money is a bad idea. Look at the tax that they're suggesting for the city. Focusing tax dollars to go specifically where we want it is a good thing because it ensures that our state or our local legislators and our city legislators put the money where it needs to go and support those areas. That's my position on it.
Thank you. Any other questions before we move on? Because we do have that's the agenda. I do recommend both you candidates stay around for our first general discussion item because it's going to talk about the TRCC tax, which is often overlooked. But I will invite any other questions. One more question, perhaps, from any board member that has a question or not.
Howard, I just wanted to interject. I wish I could accept your invitation because I do want to learn more about the TRCC tax, but I've got things I need to attend to, so I'm unfortunately going to miss the rest of the meeting. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the board for the candidates? Okay. All right. Thank you both for taking time out this afternoon and talking to us. I believe that's a first for us, so it's great to have an engagement with our potential future officials here. One of you you're going to be new no matter what. So, Commissioner. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Move on to number 5, which is discussion and action items. There are none because we were going to dedicate time for our presenters today. Moving on to number 6, this is general discussion items. And I know, board, thanks to your patience in this, but this is concerning the TRCC tax. And the reason I want to bring it up is I think this is something perhaps our travel council could send upstate for them to look at. Obviously, it's beyond our power, but the way it stands, it seems that it omits to collect tax on a ton of recreation activity in our county. From my understanding, the TRCC tax is really applicable to any tourist type charge that's, it could be for things. The only thing it's really charged on are for restaurants, vehicle rentals for less than 31 days, and of course, the transient room tax itself. It seems to me there's a lot of activity economic happening within the recreation industry that this tax maybe should be considered to be applied to. And I just wanted to throw that out there to the board if they feel that's something they want to engage or something that perhaps we could stand up state. Thoughts?
I guess, Howard, what other things are you thinking of? Do you have a list of
Well, here's my thing. Okay, as I say, the only industry that the TRCC tax is applied to is lodging, vehicle rentals of motorized vehicle rentals less than 31 days, which is basically ATVs, UTVs, anything motorized, and restaurants. But how about things like river guides, bike rentals, bike tours, shuttles? Let's go to the airport, which is particularly of county focus because it's the only kind of business center the county has beyond the city, one of them. But they have skydiving, they have scenic air flights, hot air ballooning, helicopter rides, and on and on and on. All of these are recreational activities that should be, I believe, subject to a TRCC tax, which is currently not being levied. And again, this funding is funding that would come to the county government, and they have a lot more discretion in what they can do with the TRCC tax as opposed to the TRT. Again, it would be a revenue source for the county council, if you can see where I'm coming. There's a ton of business in town that does not collect this tax, in my opinion. Jason collects it. I know I collect it. I'm a restaurant. All the lodging establishments collect it. But if you have a bike shop and you're renting bikes out, or if you have a shuttle service, or if you're a river company, or any of the airport activities, all of these recreational activities are occurring, but there is no user tax on any of these activities under the current law. I'm just wondering why they're so exempt from it.
So Howard, is this something that would have to go statewide to make
Yeah,
this?
yeah. I think, you know, I'm just bringing it by the board here to see if they feel I'm out of order in this. Is it something that we could suggest perhaps to the state to take another look at this? It seems, you know, there's been a lot of talk about the TRT tax, and I think Grand County often forgets that we are one of 29 counties in the state of Utah, and because we want it, doesn't necessarily correlate to what the other counties want. And I think that's one of the main reasons it failed. But I think the TRCC tax is something that's way overlooked. I mean, right now it's not a huge amount for the county. I think it's about $500,000. Elaine knows this, but it could be a lot more, you know, and I see the city is trying to raise a new tax on recreation. It seems there's an existing format that could be utilized if the county would just kind of say, what about this? It's just something to bring up to the state legislator as an amendment, perhaps, in the TRT laws. Maybe more doable than changing the allocation for tourism.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is maybe we put together a proposal, and I think the next step would be to go, why you ask the candidates, would be to take it to the county to see what they think. And then that would then move it up from there. Is that what you see us doing as a council, is putting something together to that effect, passing it, and then moving it on to the county level?
Well, we're an advisory board. So in essence, if this was an advisement, we could give our county that I mean, it's up to our commissioners to do things with what we advise. And we're just purely advisors appointed by them to give them advice of what as we see things from our perspective. And I think this is something that I've seen. It's something that hasn't really talked about. And again, the county is looking at ways to, you know, generate its own revenues. So this is a way perhaps to maybe increase some revenue streams for the county. That's kind of where I'm coming from it with, you know.
I guess I'd like to see maybe a position paper that you document, write it up, give a rationale, make some suggestions that we could all look at then, with some references to maybe other folks that have done something similar.
I don't think anybody's ever done this before, to be honest, Sherry. So again,
wow, such good ideas.
I like being first. How about the rest of the board? Do you feel that's an okay way to kind of approach this? I mean, I'm just looking for advisement for, you know, if it's something we even think's worth pursuing.
As a commissioner, I'm happy to speak and say that I would welcome exploring increasing that revenue stream. Certainly supportive of exploring the idea. it would be interesting and I think valuable to have some input from the businesses who, you know, we would propose would start collecting that tax and sort of get their take on how that might affect their business. Certainly that would be, you know, important to gain that perspective, but otherwise it certainly makes sense to me.
For the most part, just for the record, I mean, at least the restaurant, I can't really speak to the other industries, what their percentages is. We're talking about a 1% tax, okay? Which is, so it's not really, you know, for me, if you're going to jump out an airplane in a tandem flying, you're willing to spend $300 to do that. What's $302 if you know that money's going to go back to the community? It seems like it's an easy sell on the users, that they're not going to be like, oh my God, I'm not going to do it anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but the county could use the cash, possibly.
Yeah, I'd be happy to entertain that as a commissioner.
We'll try and formalize it and bring it to the council. If that's okay with the rest of the board. It's not really, maybe put it as an action item next month, if that's okay. Board, you feel okay with that? Yeah. Thank you for that. Go ahead.
One thing, Howard, and I don't know if this fits in, but when we start talking about the things we want to do with sustainability, we're also looking at needing some money to do some of these things. And I don't know if that would fit in there, or we're looking at other ways that we might fund sustainability. But, and maybe it's not, maybe it's a different issue once we have the money, how we might use it, but it's a thought.
Well, I think it's all tying together. I mean, if you see where the Travel Council is going in towards economic development field, it feels like it seems like a natural way to kind of look at things too, you know holistically. Possibly. Okay. Any other discussion on that? I'll move on to the Tax Advisory Board Committee. I don't want to prolong this, but again, that comes to the time of the year we're doing budgets. Again, our board is required to do a list of what we think the money should be used on, and rather than the whole board, I think it's been suggested that we form a little subcommittee of 3, which I'll be very willing to be part of, and looking for 2 other board members that be willing to sit on this little subcommittee just to really kind of work on the list, you know, and just kind of brainstorm of where we can take this perhaps. Anybody interested? If not, I can sit with Elaine too to do it.
So what's your time frame for?
Well, we're in the budget period now. It'll be the next couple of months really to sit down. We have to have a list to present to the council of, you know, basically what we already do with our budgets. But if you recall, a couple of years ago, we did suggest a savings account, and perhaps there are other areas that we can look at addressing as an advisement. Of course, the commission may not be able to do any of this depending on what our revenues are. It's more of a suggestion as an advisement. It doesn't have anything binding to it by any means.
Just to give you an idea, this is Elaine. I'm on the Budget Advisory Committee, and we are currently working through all the department budgets. And I went through a preliminary work through with the committee last Friday. So as soon as I tidy up, there were a couple of questions and a couple of things we had to check. I'll be sending out the tentative to you all, the tentative budget for the Travel Council, and you can I'll take a look at that. And I think from that, and then I'll ask Chris to give me the overall budget for the county, but we can certainly, what we've done in the past is taken a look at that budget and then crafted language that we would submit to the county commission, since we are the tax advisory board, giving recommendations of what the tax advisory board, how they feel, or recommendations on how the funds should be spent. So I hope to have that budget over to you within the next maybe week for you to take a look at. And then from that, we'll hold a marketing meeting to sort of determine what our next steps are. I'm actually waiting for the distribution for the end of October. We should be getting it about the 25th or so for TRT, because what I'm trying to do is take it month by month, since, you know, for 6 months we had no spending on any type of marketing or advertising. And so we're easing our way back in. We did some in September and some in October. We have nothing planned for November and December. We're really trying to be prudent and cautious about the way we spend it because we don't know what is coming up, or what will happen as far as collections. And I think one of the, if I might expand a little bit while we're talking about having this subcommittee, I think it's really important for the board members and myself to make the community aware of all that the Travel Council does. Everyone, including commissioners, think we only do advertising. They have no idea that the budget employs 5 people. It's 5 jobs, county jobs. We produce and take care of all of the questions that a visitor either calls, which can be over 500 calls a month that come into the office, mailing out, 50,000 travel planners, working we're working on sustainability. We're working on accessibility. We help support the MIC. We also work with the Thompson Welcome Center. I manage that. So, I don't know that it's all about, all they do is advertise. All they do is advertise. We do a lot more than just advertise. We're communicating, to stay on the trail, leave no trace. We work with every single land agency in our county.
I don't think we're, we have your back.
We need to do a better job. The message isn't getting out there.
Well, one of my things that I feel is that I think the public is completely unaware of that we as a county could spend all of the TRTs on marketing if we chose to do so. Okay, there's nothing in the statutes that would prevent us from using the whole 4.25% and spend it all on marketing. I just want the public to know that we spend the minimum amount required for those operations. And in doing so, we keep the county out of court, because God forbid, if we ever spend under what our minimum spend, that we would open the county up to lawsuits. And I keep repeating this to, the board knows this. I wish the community would understand that we're operating under the tenets of a legal system, laws that the state created. We didn't create these laws, the state did. We just follow them. It's just as good, boards do. So you're doing nothing incorrect, Elaine. You're doing exactly what your job is designed to do, and your office. So I just hope the commission understands that, and the community.
I think we just need to be better communicators out in the community. If you're board representatives, you really need to start talking to the public and our community and let them know. I mean, we definitely need to have more support, because we are taking care of every visitor question that calls in, that emails in. We're trying to guide them with the maintenance on the web. We have an incredible website. 3 million people, have gone to the website in 2019. We've communicated the information about the COVID. I mean, I think the Travel Council just continues to get hammered about all we do is advertise. And I might add that we are working on attracting a visitor that is going to stay longer. We're not interested in the one-nighter or the day tripper. We want 3 nights. We want people to come and visit and stay 3 nights. I'm sorry, we're not interested in dispersed camping. We want people to come and stay in the hotels, stay in the overnight rentals, stay in the commercial campgrounds. If they want to go to dispersed camping, good, go there. But we're focused on really helping to drive the revenue, the sales tax, and we're working so that visitors will stay longer, stay in our community, go from Grand County south, or go from south and come up north. So I think the more that you can let the public understand, the community, local community understand that we just don't run ads saying, oh, bring all your UTVs and just come and overrun Moab. That is not the case.
Well, I remember, if you recall, a few years ago, we tried to clean up our PR act and it backfired on us. I remember Colin, the board member, put this thing out in the paper. And I think we need to be if we do something like this, it needs to be written from the heart. There needs to be a storyline behind it. Why we exist, what we're about, our whole purpose. And maybe it was the way that was presented.
There was a comment that was made earlier about attracting a different visitor. And we are already have done that. We're actually working to attract a more, a visitor that will fly into Moab, that will need a rental car, that will need an outfitter, that will need lodging, that will need restaurants, that will need all of the things that we can provide them, not come here with an RV and go out into the public lands. So we are trying to attract a visitor that is going to stay longer, that is going to put a lot of their money back into our community. And I don't know how we make the commissioners and the councils at the city, everyone understand that that's the job of the travel council. We're not one fly by night, okay, take a picture and we're out of here. We want the visitor that's going to come, and eventually the visitor that might say, hey, this is an amazing place for me to live and bring my family, and we're going to move here. So that's the kind of visitor I'm trying to attract, and I've been trying to attract for 5 years.
Elaine?
Yes.
Yeah, one of the things that I found when I was meeting with people in the community about our sustainability efforts, on a number of occasions, I was able to share things that we do that they had no idea of. And so I think this is a really important issue, and it keeps coming up. And I know you feel it heavily because you have to field all those issues. Since we're in the business of advertising, we probably have access to professionals who help us think about ways in which we would share what we do that would be positive. I know the one we did before backfired. I know we've talked about, this is one of the things I wanted to do when I came on the board, is get a sticker we put on the back of like emergency vehicles or other places that say your TRT taxes at work, so that people could see it on a regular basis. Maybe we really need some professionals to help us have a strategy for us to actually share that in a way that would be positive. I think it's an important issue, and maybe we need a subcommittee to talk about it. And I don't know if the Love Communications people have some expertise in this area that could help us with our image. I see on TV that if you have a bad reputation on Facebook, they have people to help you get that better. So maybe
I think it actually, and I don't disagree with you, but I think it actually starts at home with the leaders of our community. And if the leaders of the community do not understand what we're doing and how we're doing it and all that we're doing, I think it has to start there. So that means with our elected representatives at the city and at the county. And I think they need, and I don't know whether, we can do I do a presentation annually, but we have to have, so that it starts at the top. And if the leaders of the communities have an understanding of what the Travel Council does, then it's kind of a trickle down, because they have constituents, and it would be up to them to say to their constituents, gee, I don't think you really have a full view of what the Travel Council does, and here is what they do.
Elaine?
So, yes.
Here's my suggestion, just because we have a lot on the agenda, and I know some of us want to go to Star Hall at 5 o'clock. Put it on the agenda for the county in January. Let's get on their agenda in January when they have the new commissioners on board. and we can tell them what we
Well,
do.
Well, you know what? I'm actually presenting to the commission in December. So
Well, I
why
mean,
not-
that's good, but I mean, some of them won't be there in January, and that's the ones we really need to reach out to. Nothing against those, but there's a number of incumbents who are not seeking re-election, so you'll be talking to, but they won't be
Right.
hearing you. So I mean, I
Okay,
know
well,
you're
that's
doing that.
fair.
You know, just I wouldn't mind doing it in January, even if you need me to be part of that too. I'm
Okay,
thinking, you know, I'd be happy to do that. But
we
let's
can do that.
move
All
on.
right, sounds
I just
good.
want to double back real fast. Is there any advisors, anybody would want to join me on the tax advisory board committee? You don't have to commit right now. Just send me an email, okay? If you do, okay? Do you get that, everybody? If you're interested. I'm going to move on to your report, Elaine. Now it's you officially, director's report.
Okay, well, as I said, I've been working on the budget. I'll have that over to everyone and I'll let you know what we're looking at as we're working through all of the detail. Our web visits are down 28%. We're to 1,988,000, which is not surprising just due to COVID. And our actual leads are down 35%. The top pages were the home page, BLM camping, camping in general, arches, commercial campgrounds, park campgrounds, COVID-19, mountain biking, canyon lands, and four-wheeling. We have, let's see here, 8 of the top 10 outgoing links to local businesses were to campgrounds. So 43% of our outgoing links went to camping. So camping is still a very hot topic for people. And actually what we're going to start doing is the links to local businesses that we get every month. We're going to start sending that out to each of the businesses to let them know how many links have actually gone from Discover Moab directly out to their businesses. I met with the superintendent this morning at Arches, and it was a very nice meeting. I think she's going to do a wonderful job. I'm really excited that she is there. I think she's going to be amazing for our community. So stay tuned. There's a lot coming from her.
Elaine, could you meet with us as a
yeah, I think she's a little overwhelmed at the moment with everything, but I think definitely she will. I know she presented to the county and the city, and she's really got a ton of experience and just great to talk to. And I kind of gave her an overview of what we've had going on, and I'm really, really excited that she's here. We are going to address I'll be sending out to you the information that Love provided to me on the stats based on our marketing that we did for September. And I was going to send it out, but I'm going to wait till we get the October results. And then once I get the TRT, I'll talk to the marketing committee. We'll have a quick call and we'll determine what the next steps will be for November and December.
So TRTs were above last year for July.
Yes, they were good, but we're still running at a deficit, pretty much still. So well, that's why I'm anxious to see what's going to come in a couple of weeks, and then I think we'll feel better about it. I want to say that we're looking at probably almost a 4.5% increase for the year on overall TRT, but I'm going to get a real hard number from Chris. And I'll have that over to you. And I pretty much think that's it for me.
Okay, just one thing when you're in budget discussions with Chris and the county and everybody else, the CARES Act pumped a ton of money in to cover the airport budget. So I just want to make sure that we don't forget that money that we had allocated to the airport, perhaps it can be reallocated to something else. And I know that's part of the TRCC funding actually. So that's just my question. I know the CARES Act took care of all the budget for all the operational budgets at the airport. So that should free up some money from the TRT, TRCC taxes, perhaps to be used for something.
I'm waiting to get confirmation on the CARES Act funding, what will be left for businesses. We do have SB 95 money that will be giving grant funding to local businesses. We're going to try to couple that with the any CARES Act funding that the county will be able to provide. So hopefully we'll know that in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. All right, thanks, Elaine. We'll move on to committee reports, if that's okay, unless somebody has any questions for Elaine. Okay. Marketing, you said go ahead, marketing committee. Okay, Zach.
We haven't met recently, so I don't have a big report. It sounds like Elaine's trying to set something up shortly.
Okay. Airport, I'll move into that. I'm not sure if Andrew's still in the meeting with us.
I'm here.
Yeah, you can see if I'm doing okay. If I miss anything, you can add it in. I mean, really let you know that the airport numbers are climbing. They're obviously nothing like last year, but the flight numbers are certainly improving as the year progresses. We have more flights through this time of the year. As far as I understand, the projects are moving along quite well, the taxiway and other projects. Also, the airport board is undertaking to come up with a complete set of rules and regulations for airport usage, which is quite a daunting task, but nevertheless, it's a first for the airport and it should make things a lot clearer. And aside from that, the fees were looked at, and the fees will be going up in some areas for some collections, but otherwise, just really trying to recuperate from this year. And maybe, Andrew, you can update us on the CARES Act funding that I talked about just a second ago.
I sure can. Thank you, Mr. Chair and rest of the board and other staff members. Wanted to just give you a quick update. We are down 34% in employments compared to last year. However, we are seeing month-over-month increases, which is a good sign. If you're familiar with the airport or airline industry, it usually lags and leads the economy. So as passengers increase, you can expect economics to increase as well. As far as some of the activities, Skydive had 2,800 for the month of September compared to 2,300 last year, whereas Pinnacle is down a little bit. They had 175 passengers in 2019 with 140 in 2020. Pinnacle, which is the helicopter tours, has chosen to operate through the end of the year just to help increase or improve revenues since they were closed for almost 2 months. As far as CARES Act funding, how that works, we are fortunate, the airport's fortunate to have federal dollars, stimulus funds to support the budget. We have up to 4 years to use that. However, my plan is to use it to support the budget for 2020 and then 2021. And then we can reevaluate how the 2022 budget will look compared to general fund needs or tax dollar needs to support the budget, because that has been going on for some years, and I believe it will need to continue for some time until revenues will catch up with the actual operating expenses. So we do keep our budget pretty conservative, and we're going through that process now for 2020. I did want to mention the idea that about like taxing the airport businesses. I do think it's an interesting idea. I don't know how that would work. And I say that only because any airport revenues need to go to support the airport operating budget. So if you tax that, I don't know if that is allowed to even go to the general fund, or if it needs to support.
Sales tax collected on activities at the airport, right?
I'm sorry?
There's sales tax collected on some of the activities at the airport. Like if you were to take a skydiving thing, you'd pay sales tax on that. So again,
okay.
Yeah, tax that.
Yeah. So I just don't know enough on how that would work. Not saying we can't do it. I think it's an interesting idea, especially since other businesses pay that. So definitely open to it. But how I look at it is whether it goes to the community or the county or to support the airport budget, it's still benefiting, because especially because the airport budget, those revenues then would take away from the need from the general fund, if that makes sense.
A lot of the airport budget does come from the TRTs and the TRCs.
Or the TRT, okay. So just something to keep in mind, but that would need to be investigated a little bit further to see how and if that can even work out.
Andrew, I have a question for you on that. Do people like the skydivers and Pinnacle Helicopter and Red Tail, do they pay a percentage of their gross to the airport?
They pay, no, they don't. It's based on landing fees, fuel flowage fees. So it's not like the car rentals where they pay, 10% per agreement. Different type of operation. I think it's just harder to keep track of their gross sales, but it's something that could be looked into for sure. I haven't had any direct experience with that from my previous experience. So anyway, other than that, are there any questions for the airport or about the airport?
How was Red Tails? Did they, do you have numbers on like their scenics?
Bear with me 1 second. I forgot to write that one down. Let's see here, 211 compared to, oops. So this year was 211. Last year was 635. So significant,
Wow.
about a third less.
Thanks, Andrew. Any other questions for Andrew while we've got him online here? No? Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Move on to the Chamber of Commerce. Lacey, are you with us? Lacey?
Hey, I'm with you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I'm just over here at Star Hall setting up right now. So we do have our Star Hall meeting with John Cruz tonight. He wanted to speak with businesses, particularly about business questions and answers and concerns. So we're going to do that. We are limited in our capacity. We are limiting to 20 people. Technically, we could have 50, but we want to, especially in light of the new letter from the health department today, we want to be as safe as possible. So we're going to limit to 20 people. We've got everything taped off. We've got masks and lots of things in place. So, hopefully we can do it as safely as possible. We have mostly our focus, the Chamber's focus this month has been on ballots, voting, what's going to be on your ballot. We've got, we had the Chamber candidate, or the Chamber chat with the candidate. We also had one with the city for the RAP tax to explain what that's about. And we've got one coming out on the change of government options and what all of those mean. So be looking for that. We finally were able to launch our new website, which is super helpful. It's going to have lots of features that businesses can, they can put their own events and their own sales to advertise those publicly on the website. Members can log in and pay that way. It's really just going to help a ton. And I think, well, our banquet is canceled for sure. We're not doing our banquet this year. We are still tentatively moving forward with the lights parade and the tree lighting, if there's a way to do that safely. We're getting the permits and whatnot. And so that's in the plan. But of course, like everything in 2020, we'll have to wait and see. And business in general has been really busy. There's a few concerns with workforce. We've already had a problem with workforce, and now with the testing taking 5 to 7 days to come back, we're really short in workforce out there. But as far as business, we're doing pretty good. And that's about all I've got. Do you guys have any questions?
Lacey,
Hello?
yeah, Lacey, tonight at 5 o'clock, you're limiting it to 20. Do you think that it's not okay to show up for that? My husband might want to.
I think I think it will be. Honestly, we've advertised sparingly because we didn't want a huge crowd that we couldn't handle. I think I have about 8 people confirmed coming. And so, we still have room. If you want to come, don't let it discourage you from coming, but just know that we will limit it.
Thanks, Lacey. Gabriel, from the County Commission, any updates from the county for the board?
Well, I think really we're active in the city council meeting tonight, but also next week's commission meeting will be the subject of noise, potential actions that might be taken for noise. And I think that that's really at the forefront right now, above anything. So it'll be really interesting to see what kind of solutions this community can come up with that kind of work for everyone, hopefully, and sort of get through what we're, you know, I tend to suspect that a lot of what we're experiencing right now is in some ways related to the response of visitation from COVID. And it's just really interesting to see how that, what steps that we take and how this will kind of materialize again in 2021.
I'm out of the loop with the letter that came down from the health department. Do you have any, could you enlighten us on what that was? I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, you know what? I serve on the Southeast Utah Health Department board, and I haven't gotten an email today with any updates other than that we're seeing a spike in COVID, obviously. But as far as regulations going, I'm still waiting to hear on that myself, actually.
Gabriel, I have a question for you.
Sure.
In terms of noise, I have a campground on the highway, and my biggest problem has been from the beginning is the Jake brakes on the semis. It's illegal for them to do it, and it's about a mile down the road from us before they hit us. And I've called the county and I've called the city a couple of times to see if they would sit and catch those people. But in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, they're using their Jake brakes, and it's very disturbing. And also, and I don't know that there's anything you can do about this, but a lot of the trucks that are owned by the locals make a huge amount of noise going up that highway. But those are the two things. But I wish you could regulate those Jake brakes. I don't know, when I was in Missouri and ran through a red light, they took a picture of me and they put it on a website. And when I contested it, because I thought I had actually gone through a yellow light, I actually got to see a video of myself. Now, maybe that's a really expensive way to go. But let me tell you, I didn't contest it because I realized I was absolutely wrong. And the fact that we have the technology, and I don't know if we don't have enough staff to probably regulate that, but maybe there's some technology we can look into. It's pretty sophisticated, Missouri's is, so I just throw that out.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really important point about, the UTV users getting a lot of attention right now, but we have a problem that's bigger than just the UTV users right now in terms of the production of noise. And so any action that takes place here, this discussion needs to take that into account, whether it be the air brakes on the semis or just other people who just are choosing not to be considerate of fellow residents here in Grant County, and we need to come up with solutions. Surely, one thing that I sat in on a committee meeting a few weeks ago, and unfortunately I couldn't sit in on all of the topic that it was up at the Capitol. It was just a Zoom meeting, and it was a topic I was interested in because it was also on enforcing noise, or noise ordinances, or however you might say. But I looked at the sort of the summary of that because I couldn't sit in on the whole conversation. But what the person had presented was the option in enforcement of placing the burden of proving sort of a reasonable noise level on the user rather than the law enforcement. So kind of like what I mean, obviously we don't have emissions testing here, but in other places where they have emissions testing, the officer doesn't put a device on your tailpipe to show if your vehicle complies, right? You have to go get your vehicle inspected and then have a certificate that shows you comply. So that I don't know. I see that as being a potentially reasonable and realistic way of going about it. But that's something that I'll present, and we'll see what other ideas come out of it.
Thanks, Gabriel. Okay. Anything else from the county?
No.
City is, I think he's on a vacation, if I'm not mistaken. I think Kevin was out of town. So, and Sustainability Committee, I know that you worked on a report there, Sherry and Katie, another. Sherry, Sustainability.
Yeah, the Sustainability Committee has been trying to meet with locals because with COVID kind of sidelining a lot of the things we were planning to do, we thought we just need to keep it in the forefront and talking to different folks about what we could do, even if in just a small way with recycling. So as part of that, you got my report. I visited with the superintendent of schools, and then I also visited with Rosalind Brain McCann, who works with permaculture at the Utah State University. So I won't repeat everything that you can see here, but a couple of ideas that I thought were really good. Well, first of all, I wanted this sent out because there's 3 links about things that are already being done. I mean, there's so much that people are doing that I don't know about. I mean, we're concerned about people not knowing what we do, but there's also lots of things going on with sustainability and recycling and stuff that we don't know that's going on. So I think it's important to get the message out. So I sent you those links. Like for instance, with Bee Inspired Gardens, they're hoping that businesses will join that. I mean, I've got a lot of plants around here that I could probably be part of that. One of the ideas that Rosalind talked about that I thought was really important, and this goes to you, Elaine, is trying to, as we think about other industries to come here besides tourism, she suggested that we look at companies that will take our waste and make other products with it, so that we're not shipping it somewhere. We're actually making a new product here locally. And I just thought it was a really good idea to pursue, to think about how we might do that, because they might be small cottage industries. And then the other big issue was the cost of the recycling we have here, and how to make it more affordable, maybe again, have other people doing pieces of that. So those are the highlights, and you can read the rest that I have there.
Thank you, Sherry. Any questions for Sherry?
Oh, I do have one other thing to say. Both the superintendent of schools is really, really interested in being part of this program to not only help increase the recycling that goes on in the schools, but she said that there are teachers and there are probably high school kids whose sustainability and climate change are really important issues for young people today. And she thought that we might consider on our committees or involving high school students to be part of this so they feel like they're making a contribution to the kinds of things we want to do with making Moab a sustainable community. I thought that was really great. And also that Rosalind at the university, who's really involved in this sort of thing and what the university is doing, not only locally, but statewide, she's very interested in maybe being part of a committee and doing some work with us. So that was great when we sat and talked, that people are interested in spending time and effort with this issue.
And let me show you something back to the school district in particular that I didn't see listed anywhere, but from what I can understand, all the new schools we've built are all flat roofs. What I can't understand is why nobody has solar panels on any of the school district roofs to help offset the electric bill, because there's money available to help them pay for it too. Just if you're in communications, maybe mention that to them. Sherry. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks. And as we start looking at how do we make our community that way and what kinds of things we need to do to get the certificate, because the first thing we're going to do is an assessment of where we are and where we can go. And I think that would be a very big thing that we need to do is the solar.
Okay, thank you. All right, number 10, any future agenda items any board members would like to see on a future agenda?
I don't know if Katie had a report to make.
Katie.
Oh yeah, I was just going to make a quick comment. I was just going to second what Sherry said. So I had some conversations. I spoke with Leanna Etchberger, who is at USU as well. And then I actually reached out to U of U and had conversations with different departments over there in regards to just what they do and how we can get them involved in potential, surveys within our community. And they all expressed interest as well. So it's really encouraging to hear people care about sustainability, because I feel like if we continue to push the sustainable back farther and farther out, we're just going to run into more and more problems that could have been solidified and managed prior. So future forward, but more along the lines of a sustainable destination. So I'll have more information on that as well. I'm sure every other business owner on the call is like town is insane, so I haven't really been able to come up with a spreadsheet of my conversations, but I will get that to you for the next meeting.
All right, thank you very much, Katie. All right, any future agenda items? Nope, okay. Then I'll call an adjournment. Let me see you at 5 at Star Hall.
I move we adjourn.
Okay, all right. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Sharon,
guys. Have
you
a
stay
great
there. Sharon, are you going to reapply for your board position? That's off the record. I'm just asking.
It's up this year, huh? I have to think.
Oh, yeah. Time flies when you're having fun.
Oh, yeah.
Just want to let you know that, we'd love to have you back if you
Okay.
reapply.
So do I have to fill out the whole application, or can I just say I reapply?
Yeah, you just have to reapply again. I mean, we know who you are, so it's not like you're reselling yourself to us.
Okay.
All right.